Guess what day it is?
It's Media Monday.
Good morning.
Oh, that sounded weird on my headphones. I rubbed it against here.
Yeah, you did.
Buenos dias.
I'm Megan.
I am Rogelio. Yes, my name, Rogelio. It's Ro shortened because of high school, but it is Rogelio. That's what it is.
Rogelio?
Yeah, or Rogelio.
Rogelio.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always said Rogelio.
Yes.
Okay. What is happening?
What was that?
I don't know. What was that? Did you guys hear that? Was that you?
No.
It wasn't me. Okay, there was just like a really weird sound.
Cool.
In our
it's our live. It's our first guest.
For a second, I was like, "Is that Dad coming in?" But there's no one over there.
Right. Oh well. The show must go on.
I'm so confused. Okay, well, all right. Today we're going to be talking about 2 anime movies that I made Ro watch.
Mm-hmm.
A Silent Voice, or Koe no Katachi,
Yeah.
and
That.
In This Corner of the World, which are
That
both
one.
available on Netflix.
And I recommend them. I highly recommend them.
End of episode.
That's it. Bye.
That's all we had to say. Okay, so in your words, what is A Silent Voice about?
Man, first of all, for people who don't watch as much anime as me, correct?
Right?
You watch these 2 movies, you finna have a different perspective of everything. Like, it's sad. Okay, I'm gonna just say it right out. They're both sad as fuck.
This episode is going to contain spoilers, by the way.
Yes. So if you haven't seen them, watch them and then come back to this episode and then listen to this.
Right. Unless you don't care about spoilers.
Yeah. So
But
they're both sad as fuck.
they're both very sad.
They are not depressing, but it's like, damn.
It's like real life sad.
Yes. So A Silent Voice is a deaf girl, correct? Yeah, deaf girl who is so fucking nice, man. So nice. And she gets treated like shit. And it's just like, I want to fight those characters. The characters that are in it sucks 'cause it's an anime.
Yeah.
And I want to fight them
Right.
because they're bullying her.
Right.
But she's so like innocent and like nice, and she is so like humble and a kind and caring person. Then you got these stupid assholes that are bullying her, throwing her against the fountain thing, like a where the koi fish are at. Well, I think those koi fish there. Throwing a fountain, and then it goes on and on and on. And she's so nice until this breaking point towards the end of the movie, which we'll talk about later. That's just like, oh fuck, like don't do that. And then it's just like,
So
I swear.
The story, yeah, no, it and this is a movie that is meant to make you upset.
Yeah.
Because this is what disabled children go through.
Yeah.
So this is something that deaf children, unfortunately, have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So her name is Shoko, and she's bullied in like grade school by this guy named Shoya.
Fucking bro.
And
in the beginning,
he basically gets blamed for, like, even though everybody was bullying Shoko, everybody starts bullying Shoya. Yeah. Because he took it too far.
Yeah. He wanted the attention.
Right.
He didn't want it. He got the attention.
He got the attention, and everybody was like, wow, you took it too far.
Yeah.
And they started bullying him. So then he becomes a social outcast, and he realizes that what he did was wrong.
Yeah.
And so then he goes to high school, and he finds out, oh, fuck, this girl is at my school, Shoko, the girl that he bullied. And so he decides to make amends. And it's actually been a minute since I've seen this movie, but it's so good.
So dope.
It's so beautiful.
I like the way the directors put his perspective on other people with the X's
on
their face. Like, you are not, they associate with him, but he does not associate with them.
Right.
And so he's like, I am not accepting you within my circle. And as soon as the X peels off, he has gained their trust to be with him.
Right.
And so I was like, that's kind of cool, because some people can relate to that. Like, I'm not cool with you, Mm-hmm. So therefore, I'm not going to associate with you. Even though you're with me, I'm not going to associate with you. Like it may mainly talking from a public school perspective, it's like that sometimes.
Really?
With certain people, it's like although we are in the same classroom, like I will not talk to you. I will not like hang out with you, whatever. We may see each other every day, but it's just like, nah, bro.
You don't vibe with them.
We don't vibe with them unless something like let's say you are forced to partner up with them on a project, and you're like, I don't even like you, and then sometimes you get to grow on them, and it's like, all right, you know what, you kind of cool people after all,
right?
And so like the X peels off of their face,
right? Yeah, he begins to have a very like fearful perspective of the world. Like he just doesn't trust anyone anymore because. I mean, what he did was wrong,
super
right?
wrong.
But that was what everybody else was doing. And so...
Monkey see, monkey do.
Right. And so, and that's how it is in public school, right?
Yeah.
Is that like...
Well, shows and movies play it up. Like, it's not High School Musical.
Right.
It's not Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide.
Right.
It's nothing like that. But, like, in hindsight, like, the small details... It plays out.
Really?
If you like pay attention, it plays out.
So
like there is no like hardcore bullying. Like no, well, from that I've seen in my experience, there is no hardcore bullying.
You know, that's so interesting to me because almost every public schooler I've ever spoken to has said that the hardcore bullying that you see in like books or TV
in
or
media,
movie, like doesn't exist.
It doesn't. It's just played out to make it seem that way, but it's not.
And
no one gets shoved in the locker.
So like somebody
except in sports. That's kind of funny sometimes.
Oh, so as somebody who was homeschooled, when I consume this media, all I can assume is that it's true.
No, it's completely false.
And I'm sure that there are instances where bullying is very severe.
Yeah.
Because, you know, disabled kids do get bullied.
Yes.
Like this girl, like I have seen experiences, like I've read on the internet, and you know, you can only take internet stuff with a grain of salt.
It's on Facebook, it's real. Okay.
But there have been people who have said like, no, a silent voice is definitely like, I have experienced that. And I have seen TikToks and like read Reddit posts about how people have had their like hearing aids taken from either students or teachers or things like that. And so I know that the bullying in the movie is very severe.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe they're like 1 in 100 kids would experience like severe bullying like that.
Yeah.
Whereas like I've talked to like Elise and Kara and like Michael and Marissa, and basically like everybody has said, like I've talked to my mom, Katie, like, and everybody said no, bullying does not exist. Like bullying is different than it is in shows. It's not so blatant.
Yeah. There are no football jocks that slam your books out of your hand.
Right.
There is no like Miss Popular cheerleader dating popular high school quarterback. Like, no. It's just school. The only, like, bullying is like, oh my God, like you stink or you suck at this or blah, 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 whatever. But like physically doing something to somebody, it's hardly ever. I've hardly ever seen it. Like I've never actually seen it actually. To where it's like someone will bump into you, like watch it like Pipsqueak or whatever. Like none of that. I have never seen that.
So what did you observe in the movie that you found was realistic then? Because this girl gets like physically bullied. She gets mentally bullied.
That breaking point. Like I haven't heard any stories, but I feel like if it goes to that point, her breaking point, like the actual plot, the peak of the movie.
The reason why she ends up having this breaking point is because of one other girl in the movie.
Yes.
Because like she starts to get friends because of Shoya, right? Because like Shoya's like, I'll be friends with you, and like I want to learn how to like do sign language and stuff. Yeah. And he like becomes a better person and shows her that he can be a better person, but she is still kind of like distrusting.
Yes.
From what I remember, and there's this one girl that for no reason. And I've experienced this in real life. There's this one fucking girl who will not let up.
Yeah.
In bullying her.
Yeah.
And not just bullying her because she's deaf, but from what I remember, it's like, you think that you can be friends with us? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like that kind of thing.
She blames her for everyone's fuck up.
Right.
Like, you're the reason why our friend group is not our friend group anymore.
Right.
And
that's actually like for real.
Yeah.
Like there are people who exist like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the most realistic part of the movie.
Yeah.
Which causes Shoko. We should probably put a trigger warning in the description of this episode.
Yeah.
She attempts suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, she's saved in a very anime dramatic moment.
Yes, it really is.
But that's for real. That's real life. Like that is psychological. Like psychological and like mental bullying is 10 times worse almost than physical bullying. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that shit sticks with you. Yeah. Forever.
Yeah. I haven't heard any cases like in this county. Mm-hmm. But there have been like news stories right in other counties or other states that has happened. Right. And so I feel like that point of the movie was like, oh snap, like this is
for real.
This is for real. Mm-hmm. People are like, oh, it's too far. Like, no, it's not too far. Mm-hmm. This is for real. Kind of like 13 Reasons. Right. Like, it's not far. That's real. Mm-hmm. And people are afraid of real.
Right. They are.
I'm just like, nah, bro, speak the truth.
You can't even feel sympathetic. At least I couldn't. I couldn't feel any sympathy for the girl who was bullying Shoko. Sorry. Mm-hmm. That's another character entirely. I don't feel sympathetic for her because that is just people who are like that are just mean-spirited, are just like evil at heart.
We're just coming after somebody.
Right.
Constantly.
And you could make the point of like, well, she has her own like problems. She has her own bad, like, no, but you actively have to make that choice to be a bad person. Yeah. Like, she didn't have to be that mean to Shoko, but she was. Mm-hmm. And she actively made those choices to bully somebody who is not as privileged as her. Right. Right? Like, ooh, gets me heated. But it's such a good movie. It's done by Kyoto Animation.
It is a good movie.
And Kyoto Animation makes the most beautiful movies. Yeah. One of the other things that I'm going to recommend to you is, hey, check camera 1.
Again? I think it's just a camera issue at this point.
Is it still recording?
Yeah, no, it like stops. I think it has like a timer limit, even though it says it's on the 30-minute timer. But anywho,
how does the movie end? I can't remember. I remember like they go to the carnival at some point. They go to like watch the fireworks. Like I remember things that happen like in the middle of the movie, but I don't remember the end.
It was a typical like walk away from camera, happy times. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
It does end happily. Yeah. Well, I would say it ends in a bittersweet way.
It ends with like a neutral state.
Right.
Like everyone is cool. Not everyone is cool, but everyone like isn't in a neutral zone. Like they can all agree on something now. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Like nothing like dramatic or whatever. Not like oh my god, like it's happily ever after. It's more like all right, cool. They all have their X's peeled off of their face. Mm-hmm. That's where it ends off at. That I remembered.
Right. So I know that we're not going into a super like amount of detail, but I really would highly recommend this film because of how real it is. And if you like things like 13 Reasons Why or I don't know, I haven't seen Euphoria, but like me either. I feel like if you like the show Euphoria, you'd probably like A Silent Voice.
We'll probably get comments that like you haven't seen Euphoria, it's really good.
I'm still not gonna watch it.
I just don't want to be on the bandwagon on that trip, you know.
Yeah, that was me with the Game of Thrones. I never watched Game of Thrones.
I feel like we're part of that 1% that will never watch the Game of Thrones.
Nope, never.
It looks cool, but I don't think I'll ever watch it. Kind of like The Walking Dead, an endless series.
I've seen a couple of seasons of The Walking Dead.
I've gone up to like season 4 and that's it.
It's going for too long. It's gotten more and more convoluted.
It's oversaturated now.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or Euphoria or 13 Reasons Why. You should go and watch A Silent Voice. It's beautiful. It's tragic. It's an incredible movie. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to talk about one of my favorite movies of all time in this corner of the world. Yeah. And holy shit.
I feel like they should show this movie.
In schools?
In history class.
This movie, every time I watch it, genuinely makes me sob. Every time. Even though I know what's coming now. Yeah. I've seen this movie so many times. Because it is one of the most beautiful and heartbreaking pieces of animation that I have ever seen. Mm-hmm. And what, in your words, is in this corner of the world about?
This corner of the world is the opposite of what Pearl Harbor is. No, I mean, not the opposite. It's the other side of that movie.
It's the other side. Mm-hmm.
It's the other side of that movie. So Pearl Harbor takes place in Hawaii, right?
Mm-hmm.
This corner of the world takes in not Hiroshima, but the other
Nagasaki.
In that city,
In that
village,
in that area.
That county. We'll call it the county.
Region. I mean, Nagasaki is a city, but they didn't live in Nagasaki.
Like the farmland.
They lived outside of it. Yeah.
So they lived in that.
Was it Nagasaki? I thought it was Hiroshima.
No. Well, the daughter moved from Hiroshima to
Nagasaki.
To her husband.
Oh, right. Thank you. I haven't seen the movie in like a year because it genuinely breaks me apart every time I watch it.
Yeah. So she was not involved. She wasn't at the first bombing.
Mm-hmm.
They just happened to see the flash of it. And so if you've seen Pearl Harbor, if you know about Pearl Harbor, if you know about the bombing, it points the perspective of the Japanese people, like what's happening on their side of the world or that corner of the world.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yo,
I think that
very life-changing.
It's like I'm getting chills thinking about it because there are two movies that I have seen: The Grave of Fireflies, which I've only seen once and I will never watch it again.
Okay.
And In This Corner of the World. In This Corner of the World is a more easily digestible story.
Yeah.
Because while it is focused on the war, it talks a lot about Japanese culture at the time of World War II. And, like this girl's life and how she has to get married off, and she loves art, and she thought her life would go a completely different way than it would, and things are getting tough, and the movie starts off like really prosperous, right? Like Japan's doing great, and then as you go through the movie beats, like it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Yep.
And at the end it's like, holy shit, this is like the worst of the worst.
Yeah. And
The Grave of Fireflies, why will I never watch that again? Hayao Miyazaki lived through World War II, and he's the one who directed The Grave of Fireflies. And that movie is something that everybody should see at least once, but it is like 20 times, 50 times more tragic than In This Corner of the World, in my opinion. They're about the same thing, but they're told in very different ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that, what was your perspective on In This Corner of the World? I
didn't know it was about the bombing, because they don't say it, but they don't say it during the movie. It's not like, hey, we're at war, this and that. It's just details about the ship, details about being drafted off, details about coming home late or working late or having to prepare for this and this and this and this, whatever. It never talked about the war between like Japan and the U.S. or battle. And until the flash happened, that's when it hit me. I'm like, oh shit,
this is about World War II.
This is the attack. Until I saw the flash and like, oh bro, that was like this is their perspective. We have the fairy tale, the sunshine and rainbows perspective on our side, because that's what countries are gonna do to our side.
It's propaganda.
Like, hey, U.S. won 12 gold medals. Sweet. Hey, but this other country won 20?
Right.
But it's just like, oh, shit, like, dude. And I feel the same way with, like, not Mexican film, but Mexican-based movies. It's like people crossing the border. It's like, oh, shit, bro. Like, that's what they go through. Because, like, a lot of us can relate to our parents crossing over here. It's like, oh, snap. So because I not that I can relate to it, but because there's, like, a small connection of, like, this side and that side.
Right.
It's just like, yo, like their side is fuck.
Well, what people don't realize is that when Pearl Harbor was attacked, it was a military base, right? So very few, if any, civilians were killed.
Correct.
What the U.S. did was a heinous act. Absolutely heinous.
And when you watch the movie, when you watch this film, it's just like, yo.
It gets put into perspective. That they dropped an atomic bomb on hundreds of thousands, millions of civilians who were affected.
The attention to detail afterwards It's like, okay, there's still debris falling from the sky. There's a permanent shadow painted on the concrete. Knowing how lights and flashes work, for something like that to happen, to have a permanent shadow, that's insane.
Yeah.
That is crazy. But yeah, I feel like they should show this movie in history class.
Because
I strongly believe
it shows a perspective. I feel like we hear about like...
Because I don't know if you've seen like other past movies. Like there's a movie called The Boy in the White Stripes.
Right. Which is about the Holocaust.
Yeah. And so we see their perspective. Okay,
right.
And we see both, like Jews and Nazi. You know, we see both sides.
Right.
Right. And I'm just like, how come we can't see both sides of everything we're learning about?
Right. Because in history class, I mean, depending on who you have, the bombings on Hiroshima and Nagasaki could be thought of as like a good thing, when really it was like the most terrible, terrible act of war crime that could have ever happened ever.
Yeah.
And this movie will make you cry at multiple points. I mean, I was crying like basically the entire time I watched it the first time, because I've been to Japan. I have not been to Hiroshima or Nagasaki, but in Tokyo I went to a war memorial, where it showed a flame from Hiroshima. And so like I have been to that country and I have seen the beauty of that country, and knowing what like my like culture did to another culture, it fucking changes your perspective.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah. No, on that note, for the viewers and listeners, do not take this as a political episode. This is just facts, history lesson, something that people are like, we should have learned this. Okay, well, we're not like, we weren't born in like 1980s or 70s or whatever. If we do have an older crowd, but when I went to New York and I saw the 9/11 the Twin Tower Memorial, like they have this big pool and people's names on there, and it's just like, oh shit, like you walk there and everyone is just silent, quiet, because it's like, yo, pay your respects, you know what I'm saying? And so it's just like,
both of these movies, these are not movies that we're telling you to watch for like fun. These are movies that like, if you want to have perspective, then you should watch these movies, because they both have very different, not different messages. I feel like the message for both of them is like, just be fucking kind.
Yeah.
Like, be a nice person.
Kind always wins.
Kindness always wins.
Kindness, not kind. Kindness always wins.
Kindness always wins. And I don't know, it just, for me, like, gave me a perspective on war for in this corner of the world. Like, why do we do this?
Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense at all. Probably the most tragic scene is when the main character is walking with her little niece.
Yeah, bro. Oh my goodness.
And I'm not gonna say what happens.
Yeah.
Did you cry during this movie?
I was like in
shock.
Yeah, just shock. Just what the fuck? In that scene? Oh. And the fact that they had a lesson, not gonna say what was there, but a lesson about the aftermath of what's gonna happen in this object, where to be there, it's just like, oh crap. Like, dude, this is
and you know, this is happening all around the world right now.
Yeah.
Like, the stories like in this corner of the world are currently happening in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what the fuck? Makes you think about life. It literally, like, both of these movies made me want to hug my family and my friends and like tell them that I love them, because you never know.
Yep.
Like, we live in a very peaceful state right here in America. But even though we live in a very peaceful time, you never know.
Yep. I'm gonna do a quick reset on it because I think it does it every 13 minutes.
Okay.
But yeah, and the fact that there are hundreds of movies that play in both sides. Both sides. The one that hits hard is Blood Diamond. No, the movies that hit hard are the movies that are based off of true events,
right?
Not stories. Like, yo, I am the character. I went through this. I am the main character. I'm gonna tell you my perspective on what happened.
Right.
And then at the end, when they show the real person, it's like, yo, that's that's crazy.
Right.
Like a good example, like The Blind Side,
Mm-hmm.
right? The movie's about this football player, but at the very end, there's him with the pictures and the actual family, and it's like, oh snap! It just hits harder knowing this is for real, for real.
We're recommending these movies so that way you can get some perspective, and also so that way you can cry.
Yeah. If you want to cry in anime tears, watch both of these films.
Both of these films are fictional stories. A Silent Voice, I don't believe, is based on a true story. But In This Corner of the World is obviously based on the true story of like a woman living in Japan, like during World War II. Like this is a real event that took place.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this woman existed, but this woman could have been any Japanese woman.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So her story was real, even if it's not based off of like one-to-one a real person. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, Ro, what would you rate both of these movies on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being like a masterpiece.
Silent Voice, I would give it an 8. Because I feel like it would, if we were in Shoku, if we're in Shoku's POV, because like some people will, in some films they'll like give your POV, right, the way you hear me. So if the cinematography was how she sees everybody else, either she hears a high pitch or kind of like muffledness. I feel like that would play a whole lot better. It's like if we saw more of her perspective on people, instead of people's perspective on her. So that's why I give it an 8. It's still, I mean, I think to me anything over 6 is good.
Right.
So I'll give it an 8 if they just had that small detail. But on This Corner of the World, a solid 9. The one missing out, if they just give a small hint about what they're fighting about, because I didn't read the summary, and I don't know if the summary says it or not, but I didn't realize what it was until the flash, the bombing. Right. If they just gave like a little bit of like a hint, like, oh, we're at war with the U.S. Oh, okay, now I know what we're talking about. So if that small little detail was in, it'd be a 10, but I give it a solid 9. Would I watch it again? Yes. Would I watch it? Would I tell somebody to watch it? Yes. If someone wants to get into anime, I'm like, bro, just forget about the series. Just jump into these 2 movies, because there's probably more depressing movies than that.
Right. And I also feel like these 2 movies both show what anime can be, because a lot of people think that anime is just like Dragon Ball Z or Naruto or like Attack on Titan. Yeah. And no, anime is a beautiful medium for telling incredible stories. So do you want to do where people can find us?
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Not Twitter, I forgot. No. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify at Meg and Ro in the morning, MEGANDRO in the morning. You can find us on Twitter at Mr. in the morning, and Mr. is Meg and Ro. You can email us at megandrointhemorning@gmail.com, and you can comment on our post, which I did see a comment last time on the Valentine's one.
Yeah, shout out to Daphne.
That's what I'm gonna go like it later. So yeah, you can go follow us.
We have a Linktree in our description where you can find our personal Instagrams and Twitters as well. So yeah, go watch these movies. If you're a person who has a period and you just need to cry and get out some emotional constipation, go watch these movies.
This is it.
All right. Do you have any final thoughts?
Be street smart and then be book smart.
That's a good one.